Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here, as always, with Tom or Tom. How's it going?
Tony, I was waiting for you to ask me that. It was yesterday. It warmed up. Finally, I was like, yes, I can finally start chipping away at the glacier that is my driveway. And my driveway is only like 100 feet long, and I spent 2 hours out there and didn't get the last third of it done. And then this morning, because it had not had sufficient time to dry, I went outside and it was just literally just a sheet of ice. And I was like, oh, I think I may have actually made this worse. And also, I feel like I'm 100 years old today after hacking at this for 2 hours. It's like, I'm ready for spring, Tony. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for spring.
But at least you didn't clear all of the driveway, so you had something to stop you as you were sliding down what you had shoveled, right? Like not all the way down to the road. You had like an area of ice and snow that would stop you, use you as your brakes, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just hit the huge pile of snow at the end of the driveway, which just that's there to. It's like those trucks they have for road crews. When they're fixing potholes, there's those trucks for you to crash into, so you don't crash into the road crews. Like that's the pile of snow. The huge snow bank at the end of my driveway. Just crash into this, so you don't crash into something else.
It's the runaway hill up the side of the mountain. I told you a couple of days ago that I knew I was going to go out on like Sunday. And so like Friday, I just cleaned off the windows of my car and it was still covered in ice, but I wanted to let the sun do the rest of the work. I didn't want to do any scraping because it was all ice. And it did that. And so the only ice left on my car on Sunday was basically on the hood and up top. And then, so I'm driving it around and you can hear the ice breaking and I was coming out of a KFC and I stopped and then all of the ice from the front half of the roof just like fell right onto the windshield. Couldn't see where I was going or anything like that. Fortunately, very powerful windshield wipers were able to get that ice off my windshield and I was able to continue to drive. But like I'm seeing other people with all of the ice on top of their car and just that stuff. You're driving around on 270 or 161. That stuff comes flying off the back of your car right into the car behind you. Don't be so lazy. Just knock all of the ice off of your car or drive around slowly in a KFC parking lot and it'll do that. It'll eventually come off. That's
what they do in NASCAR. Just drive around a KFC parking lot until the ice comes off the car. That's what the experts do.
Tom, and we will get to the show. Have you seen this Taco Bell free taco every day $10 pass? It's $10 a month, but you can get a free taco every day. I don't know that. Yeah. Are you going to Taco Bell's? You're gonna have to go 6 times a month to break even, to make your money's worth, make your money back. Are you going to Taco Bell 6 times a month for a free taco?
I think the tricky part of that is, are you going 6 times a month and then just getting one taco? Or is it like, well, I've got to sit in this drive-through line, so I might as well get 4 tacos, and then you're just getting 4 tacos, 6 to 30 times a month. And that seems like that's probably, I'm not in, gastroenterologist or anything, but feels like that's probably not ideal to apply that kind of humid liquid plumber to your system that often. So yeah, I'm gonna say that seems like it seems like that's one of those like what was a movie pass or something where you could get go see unlimited movies. That just seems like that might not be quite as good a deal as you think it is.
What about 20 years ago?
Well, yes, obviously. But Tony, as we grow and mature, we make better choices in our lives. So here we are today.
But, you bring up an interesting point. If you just get one taco, the chances are they're going to get the order right because there's less there. However, like there's also a 25% chance that they're going to get it completely wrong. But hey, it's free.
Why did I get a bag with 17 tacos and 4 chalupas and a chili cheese burrito. They don't even make those anymore. How is that in here? That's that's a Taco Bell experience.
Have you ever had that happen to you before at any fast food where you got more than what you should have?
I can't think of a time off the top of my head, but I have been to Popeyes on a number of occasions. So it's like, I don't know if they gave me just, someone else's order or this is my order with just some, creative interpretation by their crew. But, again, yes. The answer is probably yes.
Have I ever told you the story? I'm sure I have. And we will eventually get to the show. And I saw Tom just looking at the clock.
5.5 minutes in, yes.
This was in high school, and me and my buddy went to, drove through McDonald's. And we obviously have no money because you got to borrow money just to get gas to go somewhere and drive around, cruise around. So we ordered probably like a couple of cheeseburgers and a drink, and we got 2 gigantic bags out of the drive-thru. We could not get out of that drive-thru fast enough. We hauled butt out of there like a bat out of heck, and then like went and parked and just like, what have we scored here? And there's just all kinds of stuff. It was just more quarter pounders than your eyes could have ever imagined, Tom.
It's the fast food version of bank error in your favor collects $200. That's wonderful. I'm picturing now the you guys in the scene from the White House a couple years ago when whichever team it was that was visiting the White House and they had all the McDonald's and Wendy's and all that stuff out there for them. Like I'm just picturing you like standing there like, hey, behold, I am the king of all before me. Yes.
National Treasure 3.
There you go. All right. Hey, speaking of National Treasure 3, here's a question from @Chris_Estes1. With a new defensive coordinator and scheme, everyone is starting fresh. Any potential new starters that may be a surprise?
Tom, this is a popular question that we get in many different forms and that we certainly have ourselves because we don't know a lot yet. And there are still position battles at middle linebacker, maybe not at will, but the Leo is completely up in the air, as is the strong side defensive end. I think we have a good idea of what the defensive tackles are going to be doing, but the scheme is more aggressive, so you're going to have better numbers from the linebackers, better impact numbers. And so you have who is going to be some of these new guys. And I've mentioned Court Williams in the past. I think Cade Stover as a Leo is somebody to watch. I'm looking through all of these questions, and I keep coming back to, are we forgetting about Josh Proctor? Like he there's questions there, but and he was a starter last year for a game or two, but there's potential there, and he's a guy that I think we are not necessarily overlooking. We are overlooking him. We're maybe ignoring him. And maybe he could be a pretty big surprise this year.
Yeah, he's a good answer there because he's, like you said, he would have been the starter all year last year. And you were kind of hearing from people last summer that, hey, this is someone who's maybe kind of ready to take that next step and has really made some progress, and then had that really bad leg injury against Oregon. And then that was it for a season. And and now you're going to kind of have a little bit of Lathan Ransom in that basket this year as well, with which, when is he going to be back? When is Proctor going to be back? So that's a good answer. Another name you haven't mentioned is Tyler Friday, who I think is kind of in that same boat as well, where coming into last year, you had him sort of projected as, someone who's at least in that top 3-4-ish of the rotation at defensive end. And then I think he's just kind of like been a forgotten man because he was out all last year, got injured, at the beginning of fall camp, I think. It was very early and then you just kind of forgot about him. And, everyone's talking about Tyreek Smith and Zach Harrison and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. And you just kind of forget like, oh yeah, Tyler Friday was, came in with a lot of hype, has kind of been perpetually on the cusp of, winning either a starting job or winning a much more regular spot in the rotation. He's someone who I don't know that I'm expecting him to start, but I guess, he would be, to answer the question quite literally, he is a potential new starter that may be a surprise. So I guess he's, he could be in that mix. At least, whether he starts or not, we'll see. But um, he's someone who I think, when they play Rutgers, sometimes they'll start the New Jersey guys against Rutgers. He could at least be that kind of starter, and if not, potentially win a bigger role this fall.
It's kind of been a poor man's Tyreek Smith, but you call him a poor man's Tyreek Smith. Like, Tyreek Smith is maybe a poor man's Tyreek Smith in that the production wasn't always there, but he started. The coaches love him. He's a veteran at this point. And then, I've said before, Alex and I did this around the Oval where we picked all of the starters, and he went with Tyler Friday as a strong side defensive end. So, Tom, maybe you're both crazy.
I mean, it is very possible he could win that spot. I have not heard one way or the other if he's officially good to go for spring. Yeah. You'd kind of think probably based on how early in the season that injury was, but we'll have to see. But yeah, I think he might be my answer there to that question. Next one from @BCSBuck. Any rules changes on the horizon? If there's one rule you could change, either on the field or off, coaching/practices/recruiting, what would it be? As far as rules changes that are on the horizon, I don't think there was anything significant. I mean, like last year they overhauled overtime and that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything super imminent that's, like a really big rules change this year. Not that I've heard of yet, but that's something that they'll get into. I think a little later on this spring they have those meetings. So yeah, that's I don't think there's anything huge there, but as far as stuff you could change, I feel like you kind of have to look at the length of games and what could you do to shorten games so it's not 4 hours constantly. And the easy, what you would really want to do is cut out all the commercial breaks, but TV runs everything, so that's not possible. So maybe you don't stop the you don't stop the clock to reset the chains on first downs for the first 25 minutes of each half or something like that, and then just the last 5 minutes, okay, you can, when the time is really of the essence, then you stop the clock to reset the chains. But there's no real reason that you need to do that, so that would at least kind of speed things up a little bit. But and then the other rule that I think is just I've always thought was stupid was if you fumble the ball and it goes out of bounds at the 1 yard line, you get it at the 1 yard line. If you fumble the ball and it goes into the end zone, the other team gets it at the 20. That seems like really, really, and a lot of times it's like you're reaching for the pylon, and it's a matter of, did the ball come out of your hands here or 6 inches after, 6 inches earlier? And that has always seemed like exceptionally punitive to me, that you fumble it and it immediately goes to the other team as a touchback if you fumble it out of the end zone. What about you?
Well, and in that rule, it feels like the logic of that is just, well, that's the rule. That we've decided to make, that's the result of that. We've decided to make it that way. Whereas the more sensible thing, nobody is forcing anything and it just goes into the end zone. You can't fumble into the end zone. Like you have to recover your own fumble or something like that at certain times, maybe on fourth down, something like that. So I wouldn't mind seeing that rule changed. I have seen some talk about, I like stopping on first downs. I think that separates college and the pros. I have seen some talk about treating an incomplete pass like a first down. And the clock will start again when the ball is placed ready for play, just like it does a first down. Mm-hmm. And I think that would speed the game up. It wouldn't cost a ton of plays because if a team wants to run tempo, it's not really going to bother them too much to have that running clock. I think that is, I don't mind that one. I like 3.5 hour games. It's just what used to be 3.5 hours is now 3:45 to 4 because of the commercials and the stoppages of those commercials. And so you're taking away from what I like about the game. Like, I don't mind it taking longer than the pros. That's fine. It's built like that. But now they're stretching it too far. Now you kind of have to do some stuff. Not like in 2006 though, when you start the clock from the kickoff. I did not like that rule. And that that cost teams like, I don't know, 5 to 10 plays a game, like almost a series that cut out of those games, if I recall correctly. So, any other? I mean, obviously, targeting is the ejection portion. Would you be in favor of leaving the intent to harm? Like, if you're trying to hurt somebody, you should be ejected. Are you okay leaving that? Would you be okay leaving that up to the officials?
It feels like anytime you're introducing more subjectivity into that rule, you're asking for trouble. But at the same time, it does feel like the automatic ejection is really punitive. Like, then there's a lot of times that, like, very obviously this is not an intent to injure thing. It's just, well, this guy dipped his head and then, you had this kind of contact. This was not, like, I know the bit is that no one knows what targeting is, but, like, we all kind of know what, like, malicious targeting looks like. As much as I hate putting more in the hands of officials, I think at least giving them the option to not eject players for targeting probably gives you better results on the field, although it would be fascinating to look at that a year or two from now and then find out, the old 5-yard, 15-yard face mask that you end up calling a lot more 5 yards and 15-yarders. I wonder if you would end up with, just a tiny, tiny percentage of them actually being ejections, because, it would have to be so egregious that to get ejected because they don't want to impact the game that much. Does that lead to more 15-yard targeting penalties without ejection, or does it just lead to fewer ejections by a wide margin? I feel like you're probably going to end up with more calls, but many, many fewer ejections. And, I don't know. I don't know. I almost have to see it in action to know whether that's a good thing or not.
I agree.
All right. Next one from @GarrettSeawright. Why did Ohio State ask me to design their field and then not use my design? Am I a joke to them? I'll hang up and listen. Love the show.
Yeah, so Ohio State solicited responses or submissions from Ohio State fans, or you didn't even have to be an Ohio State fan. If you were able to put a design of a field together, go ahead and submit it, and they'd take a look. And I know a lot of people were upset with not maybe the decision, although some people are always people are always upset
on the internet. What?
Yes, no, it's true, Tom. You should check it out sometime. www.internet.com. And so the reveal of the field, it's very similar to the current field. In fact, if I had shown up on game day for Notre Dame and looked at the field, I think the only thing that I would have noticed changed were the helmet stripes in the end zones. Like, and that would be, I wouldn't even know that that's like a new thing on the field. I'd just be like, I wonder who did that and why. Is that something for Labor Day weekend? I don't know. But then they get all of these submissions and some wackadoos in there, certainly with some crazy stuff. But I don't know that this was ever there's going to be one winner. I don't know that they really ever were going to use anything. They had their own ideas, but you get submissions, see if there's something you didn't think of. The one thing, and I tweeted this out, is basically you have somebody that works at Ohio State whose job is like fan outreach and community interaction, and they just justified their existence for the 2021, 2022, calendar year of like, hey, look what I did.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I don't remember exactly how it was presented. If it was, we may use your design, or we could use your design, or something like that. And you can bring in stuff and like glean inspiration from some of them. Some of them were like very obviously not going to work. Like, the one with the cartoon Brutus that was like 4 logos ago. Like, I don't think that's what they're going to put at midfield. But I mean, thank you for your input. Yeah, this is a way to help people feel ownership of a process. Like, you have been heard. We have taken your input and included this in our design process. And did they just do what they were going to do anyway? Look, maybe, I don't know. possibly. That is absolutely a possibility because it didn't look like that exact design was submitted by anyone. So there were plenty of them that were like, yeah, that would be perfectly fine. Is that exactly what I would have chosen to do? No. And I know people were upset that this wasn't like a radical overhaul, but like, what did you expect? Did you think they were gonna just have the like blood red field like Eastern Washington? Like, no, that's probably not what they're gonna do. They're gonna have a much more subtle thing, and some of the touches the Buckeye leaves at the 35, like that's a nice little added touch. Like that's cool. But yeah, that was about as exactly like what I would have expected them to do. It's like, oh, a slight tweak of the font, and the added helmet stripes and the little Buckeye leaves. It's like, yeah, okay, it's going to be about the same as it was because it was fine, and you can. I would have preferred going to the end zones being green and like with the gray lettering like they had back in the when it was a natural grass field. But yeah, it's fine, whatever. By the way, internet.com, if you like that site name, you can buy it. It is for sale right now, pending domain name sale. Tony, own the internet, global brand recognition. I'm saying, think about it. Maybe do we rename this show internet.com?
Because I mean, it's a very specific name as well. It tells you what it is. How much is it? Like 25 grand?
It doesn't say, which leads me to believe it will be quite a bit.
That could be the new Google. Like, let me get on the internet. Internet.com. Here I am.
Worldwide brand recognition. I'm just saying, think about it. All right, next one from Chaz Reinhold 22. Who is the biggest assistant addition outside of Jim Knowles? That's an interesting question because I think you have you could make an argument for just about anyone. Tim Walton and Perry Eliano, I think, are going to be. I think they're going to do a reasonably good job. With the back end of the defense, which has kind of been like iffy the last couple of years. I think Justin Fry, you're already starting to see some really significant improvements in terms of recruiting there. They may be potentially close to landing a rather significant addition on the offensive line for the 2023 class already. So that I think there's a decent argument to be made for Justin Fry just because that has been the one spot where the recruiting has just been lagging so much the last, it was just kind of like the last couple classes, all these different position groups grade. It's like, well, what's the weak spot of the class? Oh, it's the offensive line again. So that seems like that has the possibility of being the answer. The kind of low-key answer that might be the actual answer is one of the guys who is not the top 10 assistants, who are the guys who came over from Oklahoma State, who are going to be really instrumental in helping to implement this defense this fall. Honestly, you could make an argument that one or more of them is going to end up being maybe one of the most important pieces of getting everything from point A to point B from here into getting the defense ready to go before the end of fall camp.
That's a sneaky one, like a Coy McFarland working with the linebackers. My answer is Justin Fry. I think you got to look at compare him to the guys they're replacing, and Kerry Combs and Matt Barnes, two coaches I highly respect. Tim Walton, Perry Eliano, I don't know them yet. Obviously, Perry Eliano had a great year at Cincinnati. Tim Walton has had a very good career. We'll see. I'm not expecting any type of dip or anything like that, but Justin Fry, they need to boost that recruiting, especially specifically at the tackles, and he seems to be already underway doing that. So I think he is my answer, Justin Fry. But I do like the idea of the guys that he's bringing from, that Knowles is bringing from Oklahoma State and Duke. We've talked about how instrumental they are going to be in teaching the defense, and not just teaching the players, but teaching the coaches as well. And they're going to be these kind of the roots to the entire system with just the players and the coaches, and allowing them to hit the ground running as best they can while implementing a new defense. It's very difficult to do that. It's time consuming, and now you've got all of these I don't know, worker ants, so to help do that and make it happen. So that's maybe the crew as a whole, as one, might be the most important hire of all. That might be the bigger difference from the people being replaced. I think, and I think that's my answer, Tom. I'm taking for myself. I came up with that one. All of the QCs and the GAs that are being added to help the defense. I came up with that one.
Mm-hmm. That's why you're here. That's why you get to host the show, because you come up with these creative ideas that otherwise no one would ever hear these creative ideas if not for you. So well done.
Did you hear about? Did I tell you about the Taco Bell thing?
You did. That's true.
Oh,
that is true. Very big. Very big. Yes. Next one from at BCS Buck. We'll finish with two from BCS Buck here. First one from at BCS Buck. How badly will Michigan implode after the Harbaugh/Vikings/Gaddis fiasco?
Here's the thing, though. They're going to be, I don't think they necessarily implode because they're going to be shielded by a bad schedule, an easy schedule. So they're going to look better than they are. Now, if they start losing some of these games, then it's going to be really difficult to hide what's going on. And it's going to be really difficult to polish what's going on. And, you're already reading stuff about Jim Harbaugh unhappy with money and obviously the Josh Gaddis stuff and coaches leaving for lateral moves at other schools. I saw J.J. McCarthy say yesterday that he will be playing at Michigan until the end of his college career, and I'm like, well, let's see if you're saying that if Cade McNamara is starting in September, because if he is, I don't believe you. Or if Cade McNamara is starting again in 2023, because at some point J.J. McCarthy is going to be the starter somewhere. And I don't see him being a backup at Michigan his entire career. And so there's that whole deal that you're going to have to upset somebody at quarterback. And if you already have, Tom, a culture, not a culture maybe, but like a group of players who are looking at you like, am I'm all in. Is he all in? And then if there's we all like Cade, or is there a faction that likes J.J. McCarthy? You've got to try to keep all of this together while you also were trying to leave, just this past winter.
Yeah, I mean, it is arguable that this might be the single most difficult time in college football history to be a head football coach at a major program. I mean, you've got some arguably some times in the late 60s with the campus stuff going on that maybe that's at least in the conversation. But with all the stuff changing all at once in the last 18 or so months, plus the COVID issues and all that stuff, it is so, there's just so much you have to kind of handle and manage right now that it is a very, very, very difficult time to be doing this job, even under the best of circumstances. And right now, Michigan does not have the best of circumstances. Now, to Tony's point, yes, I think the schedule will shield them a little bit from, a massive drop in being one of those teams that wins 4 fewer games this year than they did last year. And that's just, you're playing Colorado State and Hawaii and UConn out of conference. So, yeah, guess what? You're going to win a whole bunch of those games because they're terrible teams. And you still have Rutgers on the schedule, and you still have Maryland on the schedule, and, you still have Indiana on the schedule. So there's 6 wins right there, and you're going to win some of your other games. But, I think 9-10 wins for them this year could be a very realistic outcome, but they might be 15 spots lower in SP plus than they were last year, even if they have almost the same record, just because you're going to have, you're losing a lot. I mean, they have their returning productivity is really, really low. Ohio State is 25th in the nation in returning productivity. Michigan is, and these are Bill Connolly's numbers from ESPN, Michigan is 67th. They are 124th out of 130 teams in returning productivity on defense. Like, that might be, and you have a new defensive coordinator who they haven't hired yet.
Yeah.
Like, that is, if you can't see that trouble coming from, the other end of the tunnel, like that is a major, major, major red flag that you could have, and by the time they get to Ohio State, maybe this stuff is sort of sorted out. But at the beginning of the season, this is a very fortunate year for them to play literally no one in September, because it's going to take some time to get up to speed. the tricky question with them is how, losing assistants is, that's going to happen if you have a good season. And the McDonald thing was understandable. The Gaddis thing, it sounds like there was a bunch of kind of palace intrigue there that may have influenced that move. But, replacing assistants is one of the toughest and most important things a head coach has to do. Now he has to replace both coordinators, and potentially there may be someone else out the door, according to some rumors from Sam Webb. You're looking at replacing a bunch of these guys, and everyone's kind of looking at you going, well, is this guy going to be here in 2 years? Is this guy going to be here a year from now? You start to raise questions where it's just like, I could go there, but I could also just stay where I am, and it's okay. We just saw, when you have job security questions or job stability questions, we just saw Derek Mason jump from the Auburn defensive coordinator position to the Oklahoma State defensive coordinator position, which is not really a lateral move in terms of prestige in the business or salary. He's taken a $400,000 salary cut just to get the heck out of Dodge before the posse officially arrives to haul Brian Harsin out of town. So, people are not necessarily just going to be rushing to sign up to work for this guy who knows how dedicated he is and who knows how bought in he is at this point, because he very clearly wanted to leave. And you really got to nail those hires. Otherwise you go from Tom Herman to Tim Beck and Ed Warner, and you've seen how that goes.
You could find somebody who would view it as, I could be Michigan's coach in waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who has that. I mean, that's. I don't know. That would be my number one go-to thought process if I'm a defensive coordinator. But you might have to go grab an up-and-coming linebackers coach to be a first-time defensive coordinator. I mean, that's what they had to do with McDonald, and it worked out. And Harbaugh maybe thinks that, I know what I'm doing. I did it once. I can nail this again with a first-time defensive coordinator. Ryan Day couldn't, but Jim Harbaugh believes he can, perhaps, and it's going to be huge. And the thing is, I could see them needing to outscore some opponents, but again, the schedule is just, I don't know if that's going to happen. Like there's not a lot of offense on that early schedule to where they may have to, do you want Cade McNamara getting into a shootout with anybody? And it's like, well, probably don't have to, because they've got decent running backs. They might just try to get through a game with about 62 plays on offense and, like 65 plays on defense, and get back to a 3 hour and 15-minute game.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have enough offense to outscore pretty much anyone on their schedule, because just you go through they play no one out of conference, and the Big Ten, just as a league, does not have a lot of really high scoring explosive offenses. That's just kind of not what the Big Ten is on the whole. So yeah, it sets up for them to have a decent season that may camouflage what's really kind of happening there. So, all right, and the last one, also from BCS Buck, Amazon's new series Reacher, is it dumb or dumber? And I had to actually search this. This is a Jack Reacher, which is based on a book series by Lee Child. It was released on February 4th and then renewed 3 days later for a second season. So I assume that means it was reasonably well received or had a lot of initial audience, but I am not familiar with the series. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, no, I watched it. It's fine. It's not mindless, but you don't need your mind for it. So it's mind agnostic, I guess. It's a book series where this Jack Reacher, he's like some investigator, lawyer, military guy who's like in the book like 6'5", 260, a white Vernon Golston, if you will. Now, there have been two Jack Reacher movies. Do you know who played Jack Reacher in the movies?
I do not.
I'd give you 1,000 guesses and you never get it, because remember, I said 6'5", 260-ish, right?
Uh-huh.
Tom Cruise.
Uh-huh. What color were the stilts that he was using?
And I remember a lot of the book fans were pretty appalled, because a lot of just the plot-driven points of this book series in the show is just how big he is and how like nothing matters to him because he is so big and he has no fear. And then now translating that to 5'7" Tom Cruise in the movies.
Is he doing that with like the Lollipop Guild or the Oompa Loompas from Willy Wonka? Because he would look massive against that backdrop.
Yes, and also shirtless volleyball against the Oompa Loompas, just spiking it on their faces.
I'm picturing this as kind of the was it the Jack Ryan series? That might also be an Amazon series based on the Tom Clancy books, and that features John Krasinski, who is better known as Jim from The Office, who does not like just look into the camera and like raise an eyebrow, which is really disappointing. I don't know if they've made another season of that. That I feel like that was a couple of years ago, so it's been that has been a little while since that was out. But I'm kind of getting the same vibes in terms of like, like if you just kind of want to watch some action stuff and whatever, like that's fine, but don't expect to be too stressed intellectually.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I'd say it's not prestige television. It's something that would be on CBS if not for the cussing and the nudity. So it's not really me selling it, but I did watch it. It's fine. It's, you know, it's fine. It's just mindless male action and punching.
I'm still working my way through Narcos Mexico now. I finally finished Narcos, which was like 3-4 years ago. I don't watch a ton of TV outside of live sporting events, so I'm probably not your ideal pop culture consultant. Is I guess what I'm saying here.
Yeah, I just finished Narcos Mexico like a month ago, so yeah, I'm with you, Tom. It took me a while. I stopped again, and now I'm done. Completely done with all of the Narcos until there's like a Narcos Chillicothe. No?
No.
Okay. All right, Tom, I think that will do it then for this episode. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we go?
No, think we're good for today, and then great news. You guys have provided us about 17 shows worth of questions, so you'll be hearing more from us in the coming days as we attempt to dig ourselves out from our snowy driveways and dig ourselves out from the avalanche of questions you have buried us under. And we are truly grateful for those questions because they make let us, we're here for you guys. We're here to talk about whatever you want us to talk about, and this is the best way for us to know what you want us to talk about.
Like Johnny Cash told the prisoners at San Quentin and Folsom, I'm here to play what you want to play. And that's what we do. And we are very much like Johnny Cash. Thank you for saying that.
We're just here to answer your questions so we don't get shivved.
Perfectly said and stated, Tom. Thank you for doing that. And thank you guys for joining us. That will do it for this episode, and we'll have another one for you guys coming here up in the very near future. So take it easy. Have a good one. We will talk to you guys later.